In the heart of a tropical forest, a small green parrotlet leans over its newly hatched chick. It chirps, not a warning, not a feeding call, but a unique sound it's never made before. The chick responds immediately. That chirp becomes its identity. This isn't poetic fiction, it's scientific fact. Researchers have discovered that some parrots don't just squawk, they invent unique names for their babies. Each chick carries this special call for life, recognizing it instantly, even years later. Think about that, a parrot naming its baby. Imagine that, parrots creating their own language, their own identities. What if their mimicry is just the surface of something far more complex? What if these birds are not only talking, they're thinking, remembering, feeling? This is the story of how parrots may not only talk like us, but think in ways we've barely begun to understand. In South America, the green-rumped parrotlet has been studied extensively. These tiny parrots live in social flocks, and researchers discovered something stunning. Parents craft specific contact calls for each chick. These aren't inherited sounds or copies of their own calls. These are customized, invented for that particular baby. And once that vocal tag is given, the chick uses it forever to identify itself and recognize family. To test this, scientists played back recordings of these names. The chick immediately responded, calling back, flapping or flying toward the sound. Other parrots ignored it. Only the chick with that name reacted. That alone would be enough to change how we view bird intelligence. But the story is just beginning. When parrots live among humans, something even more fascinating happens. In homes, parrots often pick up names, not just their own, but the names of people they hear constantly. If a parrot hears the name David over and over, chances are, within weeks, it'll start calling out David, whether or not David is in the room. They observe, remember, and repeat, not because they're trained to, but because they're listening closely. In some households, parrots seem to follow the daily rhythm as closely as the people do. One bird would call out, "Phone's ringing," not because it understood what a phone was, but because it had learned to associate that phrase with the rising buzz of a cell phone vibrating just before it rang. Another would shout, "Dinner's ready," the moment the microwave dinged, after hearing that phrase countless times right after that sound. This isn't just mimicry, it's associative learning. Parrots aren't randomly repeating words, they're picking up on patterns, linking sounds to events in a way that makes their speech feel surprisingly contextual. It's not true comprehension in the human sense, but it's a remarkable display of intelligence and adaptation. And this ability has made parrots both beloved companions and very strange employees. Let's go back in time. In 19th century Scotland, a whiskey company launched what might be the weirdest marketing campaign in history. Instead of posters, they used parrots. In the smoky, wood-paneled pubs of the 1800s, something unusual was happening. Over 500 African gray parrots, famed for their uncanny ability to mimic human speech, were reportedly trained to recite whiskey slogans like, "McTavish Scotch, nothing smoother." These birds weren't caged behind glass. They were perched in plain sight, gifted to inns, grocers, and public houses as a novel form of advertising. Before long, the parrots were doing their job with perfect timing. When a new customer entered or a glass was poured, a feathered voice might ring out from the rafters, delivering its pitch with uncanny precision. It was marketing with a heartbeat, but not every parrot stuck to its script. Immersed in the buzz of human life, some began picking up far more than just slogans. They mimicked local voices, repeated juicy gossip, and echoed full-blown arguments overheard from behind the bar. One notorious parrot in a Scottish village even gained fame for impersonating the local priest's Sunday sermons, causing both laughter and scandal when it began delivering fiery homilies over the clatter of pint glasses. Strangest of all were the emotional bonds these parrots formed. They weren't just mechanical mimics. They began to respond to people. Some would greet regular patrons by name as they walked through the door, bobbing their heads with recognition. Others fell eerily quiet when a familiar face failed to appear, as if mourning a silent absence no one else acknowledged. Mimicry? Perhaps. But over time, it seemed clear. These birds weren't just repeating, they were remembering, reacting, maybe even feeling. Now, here's something few people know. Parrots don't have vocal cords. Unlike humans and many mammals, parrots create sound using an organ called the syrinx, located deep in their chest where the trachea splits into the lungs. By controlling muscles around the syrinx and adjusting airflow, parrots can create astonishingly human-like sounds. They're not just repeating syllables, they're shaping breath into melody, into words. This gives them a vocal range broader than most birds, and enough subtlety to recreate the sound of a child crying, a microwave beeping, or even a door creaking. It's why parrots can do impressions that rival professional voice actors. And the deeper you go into parrot biology, the stranger and more fascinating it becomes. There are nearly 400 species of parrots scattered across the globe. Some are so tiny they could perch on your thumb, like the pygmy parrot, barely 3 inches long. Others, like the majestic hyacinth macaw, stretch over 40 inches from beak to tail, their wingspan nearly as wide as a grown man's height. Their lifespans are just as varied. Some parrots live short, fleeting lives of 7 or 8 years. But others? They're practically ageless. African greys, Amazons, and macaws can live 60, even 80 years. A few have been recorded living past 90. In some families, parrots don't just grow up alongside the children. They outlive them. They pass from parent to child, generation to generation, like a living heirloom. In these homes, the parrot isn't just a pet. It's a witness, a storyteller, an elder with feathers and memory. Parrots don't just mimic, they remember. Faces, voices, moments, and sometimes trauma. In sanctuaries and rescue centers around the world, caregivers witness something haunting. Some parrots rescued from abuse go completely silent. Others will speak, but only in fragments. A single name, a long-forgotten phrase,
a cry.
One parrot kept whispering "Don't hit me" for months after being adopted from a violent home. Is that mimicry? Or is it memory? A scar etched not on the body, but in the mind? And then, there are the stories science can't explain. In 2010, Darren Chick, a British man, faced a heartbreaking loss. His cherished African grey parrot, Nigel, vanished without a trace. Posters covered the neighborhood. Friends and strangers joined in the search. But Nigel was gone, disappeared into thin air. Then, for years later, an astonishing twist. A local pet shop owner received a gray parrot brought in by a customer. Scanning the microchip, she confirmed the impossible. It was Nigel. Darren rushed to reclaim his feathered friend, but something was different. Nigel no longer spoke English. Instead, he spoke fluent Spanish, clear, deliberate, and conversational. Even more mysterious, he repeatedly asked for someone named Larry. ¿Dónde está Larry? Where is Larry? Who is Larry? No one knew. No one came forward. And Nigel never uttered a single English word again. But Nigel's story isn't alone. Across the globe in Japan, a lost parrot returned from disappearance, singing a brand new pop song, one that hadn't even been released publicly yet. How did it learn the melody? From whom? And in the United States, a parrot who escaped during a family divorce reappeared months later, perfectly mimicking the intense arguments between the estranged couple. Every shout, every whispered secret, with chilling accuracy. More than pets, parrots are witnesses. And they remember everything. In the wild, parrots live in large flocks with intricate social systems. They form bonds, rivalries, and alliances. Some species mate for life, and if one partner dies, the other may grieve for years. Parrots aren't loners. They require social interaction to stay sane. In captivity, when left alone, many develop symptoms of anxiety and depression, pacing, self-plucking, or going silent. When happy, though, parrots are vibrant. They laugh, play, dance to music, and even improvise sounds. Some have been observed trying to trick owners with fake doorbell noises, just to get attention. In one documented case, a parrot called the family dog's name repeatedly until the dog came, and then shouted, "Bad dog," laughing hysterically. This isn't random behavior. It's targeted. It's intentional. It's clever. So, let's return to our question. Do parrots name their babies? Yes. In some species, clearly and consistently. But when you step back, that's just the tip of the iceberg. They name. They mourn. They play jokes. They form deep bonds. And in rare, strange moments, they disappear and come back changed. They are nature's recorders. Nature's comedians. And in some way, nature's philosophers. So next time you hear a parrot speak, don't dismiss it as mimicry. Because sometimes it's much more than that. And maybe, just maybe, it's calling someone by name,